He called him Very Wise because Bill Gredley, who had a horse with us at the same time, called one Clueless after me. So John stepped in and called his Very Wise, which was terrific, yeah.
Lincoln Handicap at Doncaster, just around the corner, sort of signals the start of the flat season. Michael Hills, multiple group classic winning rider, managed to win the Lincoln on one occasion, myself once as well. But William and the team have managed to win on 4 occasions. It's been a great race for you down the years, William.
Yeah, it's been a terrific race, really. We always like to have a runner in Lincoln. We've had quite a few get beat as well, but it's nice to start the season off in a race like that if you're lucky enough to win.
What is it about the Lincoln and Doncaster? Is it the signal of the start or something that you've aimed at?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I started training, there was no all-weather racing, so the Lincoln meeting, I think, was on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Was a big meeting. So yeah, I think it's always been nice to have it's a valuable race, a valuable handicap, and it's always nice to get the season started.
And Michael, from a jock's point of view, you managed to get one on the board for Dad, Pablo. Can you remember back to that?
Yeah, 2003, and he was well handicapped, working great, all the good signs in the spring, and I managed to win it once. Yeah, it's a hard race to win.
Yeah, massive race. I just want to think, how many horses did you have in the yard when High Low managed to win off 8 stone with Jimmy Quinn rated next to nothing?
I think he was rated 76. We didn't have many, probably 40, maybe not quite as many as that. So yeah, it was a great moment. He was drawn high, and I don't know whether it was high, because in those days High was on the stands rail. I get a bit confused now. And he won easily, and he was very fashionable in those days, Jimmy. I mean, to get him was a result, and he won easily.
Was it a massive aim early on at that time of your career, if you like, in '92, to win the Lincoln, or how much more did it mean then?
Well, obviously a lot, because we were only just starting, but my first ambition was to try and win at every racecourse in Britain. And I thought that was doable, and that was something I could do. He obviously couldn't be champion trainer, and winning those big handicaps is hard. You need some quality horses. And so that year, '92, we had another horse, as you mentioned before, off air, called Bog Trotter. And we had some quite nice horses that had been bought by James Delahook in Keeneland, and High Low was one of them. And I loved High Low as a yearling, and he didn't really do much good. He won a race at Thirsk as a 3-year-old, and then he won the Lincoln well.
Yeah, and that sort of profile with him, when did he strike you as a Lincoln horse? And then there have been all the others, Very Wise, at Penitton and at Dave. When did they tell you?
Well, I think Adabe was quite obvious to everyone here. But Very Wise, I didn't see him coming at all. He won at Newcastle when the Lincoln was at Newcastle. They must have been renovating at Doncaster, or it was a band, I can't remember. Penitent was marvellous, but he ended up being a group horse for David Amara. And High Low was the sort of, he was the first one. It's a hell of a long time ago now, but he won really easily. And I mean, at 76, I think he wouldn't, or maybe 80, he wouldn't get in. He wouldn't get in a 3rd race now. But the one we really wanted was Yeast. That was the one we really wanted to win the Lincoln, and he never got in. Maybe he was off 76, and High Low was off 80. I can't remember.
No, High Low 75. You're right. He was mid-70s. Yeah.
Well, Yeast was off a bit more, maybe 78, and he never got in. And he was the one. He went a week after the Lincoln to Newcastle on the grass and beat a horse of Roger Charlton's called Wixim, who ended up being a multiple group winner, one of Juddmont's. So he would have won the Lincoln, I'm sure.
And you said about going to Newcastle. Very Wise, same as High Low, out, gone, made all, and that was when it was run at Newcastle.
That's right, absolutely made all. Joe Fanning rode him beautifully. Very Wise is a great horse. He's owned by a chap, a Norfolk farmer called, was a Lincolnshire farmer and a Norfolk landowner called John Greeton. And he called him Very Wise because Bill Gredley, who had a horse with us at the same time, called one Clueless after me. So John stepped in and called his Very Wise, which was terrific. Yeah, he was a decent horse, but a handicapper. He wasn't a group horse. He was just a good handicapper.
Okay, and we'll touch on, you know, Pertemps obviously went on to be very good, but Adabe was, I think he was mid-90s, maybe high 90s when he snuck in, and
he was always quite a good horse. Martin Harley used to ride him early on. He rode him, I think, his first 2, maybe 3 races, and then he won the Silver Cambridgeshire when he was expected to, and he beat one of Sheikh Hamdan's in the, I can't remember, one of Charlie Hills's, I think, one of Charlie's. And then he was always, the Lincoln was his race. He liked soft ground, and he was good at a mile. He actually ended up winning it over a mile, being better at a mile and a quarter. And we think he was untried over a mile and a half. We think as he got older, he would have been a good mile and a half horse. But yeah, he won the Lincoln, and he beat Lord Glitters, amazingly enough. It was a hell of a race that year. And actually, I watched the rerun not so long ago. Yeah, that's what you do in the winter when you're wanting to cheer yourself up a bit. I watched the rerun, and he absolutely bolted in. I mean, he was never probably doing too much early, and he bolted in. So that was a great day, and he won the Sandown Mile after that.
And he really was a super horse. Is that maybe he's a bit of an exception, but the type that you're looking to go into the race?
He's an exception. He was lightly raced, well bred, immature as a 2-year-old, never ran, just got better and better. But I never expected him to do what he did after. But he was always a nice horse, wasn't he? He was always they always talked. Everyone talked about him favourably.
Yeah, he was a superstar. The jock's point of view, you were looking, however long it was in advance when the early entries came out. You know, you used to be thinking, right, what can I get on to win the Lincoln from the jock's point of view?
Yeah, I mean, you know, to win the Lincoln before the all-weather, it boosted your season. Suddenly you're at headlights, and you we're looking forward to a good season. It'd kick you off. So it's like the main thing, and build up before the Lincoln. This is working well, and that's working well. So it got you in the trainer's mind, and he's on a fancied runner, and you'd pick up a few more at Doncaster. So it was a big meeting in them days. Yeah. It's 3-day meeting as well, and a lot of maidens would come out, and my father would always have a lot of runners at Doncaster. So it was a great meeting to kick your season into gear, so to speak.
And because we've been around or seen the Lincoln for so many years, it really does signal the jump start of the season. With them, the Lincoln horses, how early would they get starting to change gear a touch, or is it different?
Well, they do start, but it's changed completely now because, as I say, when I first started, there was no all-weather and there was no international racing. I think Hong Kong started it. And now we're Bahrain, Hong Kong, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Dubai, so and Australia as well. So there's a sort of thought process now that our best horses should be coming out in the winter period when it's the worst time to train, and the Lincoln is sort of very much the horses have been working with those horses going to Saudi Arabia or Dubai. So from that point of view, it's really good. But you like to keep, certainly when you're in my position, you like to keep a few under the radar so that when the full season, because when you get to Royal Ascot, you can't name 3 horses that won at the Guineas meeting. And when you get to Goodwood, you can't name 3 horses that won at Royal Ascot. So our memories fade very quickly, especially at my age. And, we live for the next week. And that's how it goes.
And the profile then, I mean, I was Hunters of Brora. She'd run 1 million races, slotted in. It was the Lincoln was just won by a horse who was fairly treated. You had some good horses going into the past Lincolns. This time round, the profiles of the horses coming in, are they pretty similar?
I think they haven't run a lot. They're not bad horses. We got 2 in the Lincoln. They're not bad. But last year, was won by Mick Shannon, a horse called Johan, who we'd had since he was a yearling, and we'd recommended to John and Julia Aisbett that he had a change of scenery. He was a lovely horse, and he had a change of scenery, and he won the Lincoln, which we didn't expect, but thrilled he did. And he was quite an exposed horse. He wasn't, you know, he was just well trained to win on that day, which was terrific for all concerned. The two we have this year are sort of exposed, but you have to think there may be something, you know, hopefully they've got a little bit of improvement in them.
Well, and talk about crafting the two pedigrees, if you like. You've nearly moulded the one completely, haven't you? Montasib, if you look at him, Felwar was Aklam, so you know that inside out.
Yeah, Felwar was okay. She wasn't too bad. And this horse has always been a nice horse. He won his only race as a 2-year-old, and then he in the spring of the following year, he had a heart issue which suggested he was going to drop down dead. So he went back to Shadwell, and he had the year off, and he was treated by Celia Marr at Shadwell. They did a brilliant job. And then that coincided with Shadwell wanting to reduce their number of horses worldwide, and he was penciled in for the sales, and we said, well, you can't really sell this horse because he has a heart issue. It may have gone, but nobody knows whether it'll come back. So I'll take him off your hands, and so Shaker Hiss very kindly gifted him to me. And we had him all last year, ran in my colours, and he had we tested his heart a lot, and we had a clear run with him, and we think that's gone now. And so we've leased him to some elderly, I call them my Welsh farmers, but they're not Welsh. I'm very proud to say they're English, but they're Herefordshire. And they're going to have a bit of fun with him this year, and we've kept an interest ourselves, Maureen and I, so we'll have a bit of sport with him, hopefully. And, you know, he's a charming horse. He's a real giver.
Gentleman.
He's a beautiful ride. He's a very uncomplicated horse, and we think he's in pretty good shape. And whether he's good enough, my question mark more with him is whether he'll be really effective at a true run mile. And if it was 7, I'd be more confident. But I still think he's worth a go. And
you went for an away day. How did they come through that? Was that something you did previously with your other runners?
I can't remember, Jason. I can't remember. But we went for an away day, had a very good lunch afterwards, and the horses seemed fine, yeah. They
showed lots of what you were expecting.
Well, they worked how we all thought they would work.
Okay.
He rode Montasib and was very happy with him, and J.P. Guillenbert rode Almabeer and was very happy with him. So from that point of view, yeah, that went well, and they won't need anything now. They just tip away now quietly till Saturday week.
How was the field they gave you, and how you covered the ground and hit the line and everything at Southall, wasn't it?
Yeah, at Southall. It was quite windy, so we just had to be a bit careful. But listen, it was just to get them out on the racetrack and stretch them. But he moved beautifully, and you know, he felt in very good form. But I do agree with Willie. You know, just we'll see with the mile. I don't know what the weather's going to be, but if it got very heavy, you know, he's just got to get the trip.
And with Almabeer, again, pedigree, you know, incredibly well. The mare, she was very talented. Can I say quirky or troublesome or? Not
really. She got better as she got older.
Yeah.
That's you know, he's by Jubawi, out of Mufriha, first foal, and he won as a 2-year-old first time out. Really impressed me. And William Buick rode him. He doesn't ride much for us, and it impressed him as well. And I thought he was a possible classic contender.
Okay.
Of course, as soon as I put him in the Guineas, he went into reverse, and then he was badly behaved on his first run at Goodwood, hung like a gate, and didn't race at all. Finished last of 4. And we had a messy year, and then he just got his ground at the back end, and he travelled beautifully, and he just picked up and won easily. And I thought, oh, I think we've got him back. And he's a pretty nice horse. I think he must have cut. but good cut. And my only reservation with him, I think he's got improvement in his mark. I just wonder whether Haydot's a round track. I wonder whether a round track will suit him better than a straight one. But we'll only find that out next weekend.
Truly Run Mile would be absolutely perfect, wouldn't it?
Right up his street, absolutely.
And ground conditions for him, as you said?
Softer the better.
Really?
I think, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Softer the better. I think he really relished that. It was heavy ground at Haydot last year, and he really relished it.
And no signs of any kink or quirk about him?
Pretty straightforward, I think. I think I think that gallop will have done him more good than Montasib, actually. I think just get a bit of freshness out of him and just get him into a good mode.
Yeah, him up into the zone, and Montasib just seems to have that natural. But is it the Lincoln itself? They put good prize money on, which I saw somewhere that you mentioned, which is great, isn't it?
Well, we are particularly vocal about prize money in certain areas and at certain race courses, and it's being addressed. And the Lincoln's gone up from 100 grand, which has been for a few years now, to 150, and that's terrific. And the consolation is I think 100,000, which is, or maybe 75,000. It's still a very good pot. And
for that big money being put on for the Lincoln at Doncaster, you're going to get that higher, better grade going in.
I think so. I think it's a genuine target for a lot of decent horses. I think it's quite a strong race this year. I mean, we'll know more when the 5 days come out, but I think it looks quite a strong race to me.
And it's been a great run for you and the team. Obviously, the Australian, I can't not touch on the team you've got down there. Is that your 4th Australian Group 1 the other day?
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, it's good fun. We were enjoying it very much. Bit of an early start in the mornings, but no, they were in really good shape, weren't they, Mike?
Yeah.
When they left, we were very happy. We've lost one. Earl of Tyrone got a tendon strain, so we're down to 3, and 2 of them have won their first start, and hopefully, they've got bigger prizes to come. Funny enough, on Lincoln Day, one protagonist will run in a $4 million race, and then Jubana will run in the $5 million race the following Saturday. It's pretty good stuff, isn't it?
You mentioned about him thriving. You said he had a great winter. He thrived through that. What do you actually mean for everybody? What was he doing, or how did it come about?
We don't think he was doing anything different. His whole look and his whole demeanour was better. Previously, he'd been a bit not really like the cold and that sort of thing, and we still had him in the. We actually did move his stable just to give him a change, but the horse just did well. He was thriving throughout. He always looked great. Never grew a coat, did he at all? And he went to Hong Kong. What am I talking about? To Australia in really good shape. Now his form on soft ground is exceptional. His form on decent ground is not as good, and that was quite quick ground on Saturday, and he managed to cope with it. But I'm not sure he won too many races on that sort of ground.
Okay, but Bowling Green flat, isn't it?
Well, that's what Ryan said. He said they can cope with it much more, these European horses, when it's flat. Yeah.
Okay, and so look, we look forward to another tremendous year for the team here. It's a huge operation now. Can you win the Lincoln? Can you become I think it'll be 5. That would be some record.
Well, it would be lovely to win, but we'll see. We'll see what I think. They both need cutting the ground. I think if the ground is soft or heavy, I think Almabir will run respectably, won't he?
Yeah. Go on. You had 40 stabs at it, Mike. Go on, tell us.
Well, they've trained really well to the race, and they're in great form. And it would be hard to split them, really. 2 big chances.
His brother will probably come and beat both of us.
No, he won't. No, it'd be a great way to start the season again.
For Charlie.
No, it'd be a great way to start the season for you, and I hope that you get number 5 on the board.
Thanks, Jason.